Are Republicans winning the messaging war?
You know, polling is indicating that they're not. Of course, it's early yet, right? And the full effects of the shutdown haven't been felt by the American people. When we start to see travel delays because TSA workers are calling out, you know, perhaps there will be a shift. But, you know, the biggest, those feeling it the most are those who are going to be going without a paycheck later this week or next week, certainly. I will say it's hard. It's easier for the House Republicans, particularly, to stay on message because they're not here in Washington, right? So they may be at home doing doing interviews, but they're not here voting. They're not getting tracked down in the halls by our reporters, other reporters. So it is easier to stay on message then. But we did see one very important one, someone who's become a bit of a squeaky wheel in the House Republican caucus, and that's Marjorie Taylor Greene.
Glad you brought this up. What do you think about this? I can't even read the whole thing, or they'll bleep us on the air, and it's also a long post.
It is very long.
But she says she's carving her own lane, and she's pointing to her own family.
Yes.
When it comes to rising subsidies. Is she on her own here, or does she open the door for other Republicans to do the same?
So it's hard to say at this moment. Marjorie Taylor Greene doesn't really represent anyone. You know, she was in the ultra-conservative House Freedom Caucus and got kicked out. So she's sort of a caucus of one, and her allies may not necessarily fall in line behind her. But I think it is an interesting jailbreak from, you know, the Republican message, and particularly when she's talking about her own adult children having double premiums and it being very much a concern. She also is a small business owner, and a lot of small business owners rely on the Affordable Care Act to get their insurance.
Sure. To your point, she's talking about her kids. I'm going to go against everyone on this issue, she writes, because when the tax credits expire this year, my own adult children's insurance premiums for 26 are going to double, along with all the wonderful families and hardworking people in my district. She may not be part of a powerful caucus, but she does have the president's ear, right? Does this help to maybe crack the door a little bit on this issue at the White House?
So we are trying to sort that out. Her relationship with Trump has been a bit fraught in recent weeks, particularly over the Epstein files. She's been one of the lawmakers to sign on to what we call a discharge petition.
Essentially, her own lane there too.
Yes, certainly. And she was supposed to have a press conference at the Capitol tomorrow on particularly sort of a revised or an updated.
Right? Okay.
That seems to be canceled for right now, but she's still beating the drum on the release of the Epstein files. So it is very interesting to see her break with the president yet again on this. I'm not sure if he's answering her calls right now. We're definitely endeavoring to find out.
Boy, I bet that's true. You know, with regard to the discharge petition, just to veer off course for 1 minute, there's a new member of Congress. Congresswoman Grijalva, or Congresswoman-elect Grijalva, has not been sworn in to office yet. There's a whole conspiracy online that this shutdown is only to keep the Epstein files from being released. But why can you not swear in a new member when the government's closed?
Because the House is not in session.
It's as simple as that.
So they can't swear her in.
So next week it could be a different story when
if Mike Johnson were to call the House back in, although he says they're going to stay out for the duration of the shutdown.
Yeah, I'm going to take the opportunity to mention, by the way, that we're going to be speaking with Speaker Mike Johnson tomorrow here on Balance of Power on the late edition, which is a conversation that we're obviously very much looking forward to learn exactly where his head is right now. The Speaker of the House will join us in the 5 p.m. Eastern hour tomorrow here on Bloomberg TV and radio. Do we know what the plan is today, or are we just ad-libbing? There was supposed to be votes every day, right? But we haven't heard about a time.
We have not heard about a time in the Senate for a vote. They've already voted on the 7-week stopgap, which Senator Cassidy mentioned 5 times, and it's failed all 5 times. So
6 might not make a difference.
Yes. So we're waiting to see if they do call a vote. I think some of the president's actions in the past day have kind of thrown a wrench into things, particularly his announcement this morning, or the OMB memo, the budget office memo that's been circulating on not giving pay to furloughed, back pay to furloughed employees. So that has sort of sucked all the oxygen out of the room today on Capitol Hill as members of both parties seize on those comments.
Well, it's interesting that, you know, Angus King, aforementioned, has been listening to this. He doesn't like the rhetoric, and he's suggesting that he may become a no vote once again on all of this. We've got not just Angus King, but John Fetterman. I'm assuming that he's in place for now. Senator Cortez Masto, also a question. Could we be in a world where the next round of voting, and maybe that's why we don't have one today, looks worse?
We certainly seem to be going the wrong way, at least if you are a member of Republican leadership. All senators are also not in town. There were quite a few who were absent last night for the vote. And
John
remember,
Thune must love that.
It's a 60 vote threshold. So it is. It will be very interesting to see in the next round of votes. Republicans had hoped to be picking Democrats off one by one. There are several moderates who would like to see the government reopen, particularly those in this area, people like Senator Tim Kaine from Virginia. But the president's threats to fire federal workers and to not give back pay to furloughed employees seem to be having opposite of the intended effect. Instead of scaring Democrats, it's making them more resolute.
Wow, amazing. The president says 4 or 5 days we'll have a decision of some sort on furloughs becoming layoffs, on the mass layoffs that have been threatened. That sounds to me 4 or 5 days. Everyone's going to kind of wait for the 10th and the 15th, the next stops in the pay cycle for feds and for military. Is that kind of the next stop in the road?
So we've been hearing him say, we've gotten different timelines for this. Last week it was within a few days, within a day or two. Now it's 4 or 5 days. It's starting to feel like when I'm driving with my kids in the backseat and they're acting up. And I'm like, I'm going to turn this car around.
Don't make me.
So it remains to be seen. Certainly the threat is still hanging out there. Federal workers are supposed to be paid this Friday, so that would then set them up for layoffs at some point after. He did say it would be substantial today. In the past, they've said thousands. So will remain to be seen. I can't underscore enough, though, how different this is from previous shutdowns where, previous administrations have not used, Trump himself did not use the 35-day shutdown, the last one we had in 2018 to 2019, to do mass firings.
Your gut check, though, is check back when there's news, right? I mean, we could set a new record in this shutdown.
Yes.
Granted, we could reopen in a couple of days, but the prospect for a protracted shutdown is there.
Absolutely. Talks are not happening, and neither side seems like they are willing to give at this point. So I think that it will be interesting to watch. Last time in 2019, January of 2019, what ultimately convinced Trump to reopen the government after he didn't get his border wall funding was air traffic controllers not showing up for work and hobbling air traffic in this country.